You've probably seen those wildly popular tutorials online showing you how to whip up a gourmet meal in just 15 minutes. It's totally fascinating, right? Now, obviously, building massive generational wealth is going to take a little more time than boiling a pot of pasta. But here's the secret. Learning the ultimate recipe for wealth, the fundamental rules the rich actually use to multiply their money, that only takes about 15 minutes to wrap your head around. So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to distill 40 massive financial lessons into a highly actionable visual roadmap. We're cutting out all the confusing jargon. Instead, we're looking directly at the habits, the mindset, and the math that separates those who constantly struggle financially from those who build absolute empires. Okay, let's dive right into this. Our journey today covers 5 steps. First, the mindset of the rich. Second, building assets and income. Third, smart spending and saving. Fourth, the power of investing. And finally, protecting long-term wealth. Starting with section 1, the mindset of the rich, and redefining the basics of money, because true wealth always starts with how you mentally frame the world. You see, people constantly confuse financial freedom with being rich. They think, they need to become a billionaire overnight just to be happy. But think of this as 2 completely separate ladders. Financial freedom, that's just a 10-step ladder. It simply means generating enough passive income, maybe by renting out a spare room or setting up a small side hustle, just to cover your basic monthly expenses. Being rich and generating massive wealth, though, that's a 1,000-step ladder. The trick is you have to climb the 10-step ladder first. Once your basic survival isn't tied to your salary, you unlock the time and the freedom you need to climb those remaining 990 steps. Now, average financial advice will always tell you to diversify right out of the gate. Never put all your eggs in one basket, right? But look at the truly wealthy. Did Jeff Bezos start Amazon by selling electronics, clothes, and groceries all at once? No way. He put every single egg in one basket: books. He focused entirely on dominating one specific niche first. The golden rule here is that you focus intensely on one thing to get rich, and then you diversify later to stay rich. Moving on to section 2, building assets and income, or the mechanics of money. Let's look at how to actually generate and multiply cash flow. If you walk into a standard financial planner's office, they'll almost immediately tell you to cut out your $4 daily coffee to save money. And honestly, that is the classic middle-class mindset of extreme penny pinching. The wealthy approach this completely differently. Instead of asking, how can I cut my expenses, they ask, how can I increase my income so much that the cost of this coffee becomes completely irrelevant? Constantly obsessing over cutting costs just drains your motivation. Focusing on generating more income shifts your brain from seeing roadblocks to finding actual solutions. But to increase that income, you absolutely need leverage. And leverage comes in 3 main forms. First, there's labor, which means hiring teams to multiply your 24 hours. Then there's capital, which is just using money to make more money. But the most powerful modern leverage? That's media and software. Think about a YouTube video or a piece of code. You create it once, maybe it costs you a few bucks, but it can be used by millions of people endlessly. It acts exactly like a rental property, generating cash flow while you sleep, but without that massive down payment. There's this brilliant story from the source material about a highly educated, frustrated writer who just couldn't get her book published. Someone suggested she take a sales course to learn how to promote herself. Well, she was insulted. She said she was a professional, not some sleazy salesperson. But the reality check is this: the world's most successful authors aren't necessarily the best writing authors, they're the best selling authors. Whether you're a brilliant dentist, a lawyer, or an artist, your core talent isn't always enough. Often, you are just one complementary skill, like sales or marketing, away from massive wealth. Section 3, smart spending and saving. These are the frameworks for your daily finances, because once the money starts coming in, you need to know exactly how to manage it. The absolute best way to do this is through an automated system. The exact moment you get paid, the money should just route itself automatically. Picture this: 50% goes directly to your fixed costs like rent and bills. 15% is immediately invested, and another 15% gets parked in short-term savings for things like a house down payment or a vacation. That leaves 20% for guilt-free spending. If you want to blow that 20% on fancy restaurants or the newest gadget, you can do it with literally zero guilt, because your future and your obligations, they're already fully funded. But hey, what if you're starting out with debt? The source highly recommends something called the debt snowball method. Here's how it works. You list all your debts, you pay the minimums on everything, but you throw every single extra cent at the smallest balance first, like say a tiny credit card bill. Now, mathematically, targeting the loan with the highest interest rate makes more sense, but human behavior is all about psychology. Knocking out that first small debt gives you a massive psychological win, and it builds the momentum you need to attack those bigger loans later. Now, here's a really simple but incredibly powerful framework for your spending. It's called the 2 times rule. Whenever you want to make a luxury purchase, let's say a new $500 smartwatch, you have to simultaneously put in equal $500 into your investment account. Instantly, 2 things happen. First, you totally eliminate the guilt of buying something nice. And second, it brutally cuts down impulse buying. Why? Because that $500 watch now effectively costs you $1,000 out of pocket today. It's a real game changer. Section 4, the power of investing. This is where we let time do the heavy lifting. Time is actually far more valuable than the initial dollar amount you put in. Check out this incredible timeline. We've got 3 investors, and they all get a 10% annual return. Amit starts investing at age 15, puts money in for just 5 years, and then completely stops. Rahul starts at 19, invests for 8 years, and stops. Vijay starts at 27 and invests every single year until he turns 65. So, who has the most wealth at age 65? Surprisingly, it's Amit. Even though Amit invested the absolute lowest total amount of cash, his money had decades more time to compound. Time in the market is vastly more powerful than the amount of money you start with. And when you do start investing, you really have to embrace the 80-20 rule. Even legendary investors, guys like Warren Buffett, expect that out of hundreds of investments, a huge majority, up to 80%, might just underperform or even fail outright. You absolutely cannot panic when a few investments go into the red. Massive portfolio-making success usually comes from just a handful of big, long-term wins. So the crucial point here is protecting those returns from silent killers. You have to be aware of the seemingly harmless 1% extra management fee on your portfolio. Over the course of 30 or 40 years of compounding, that tiny little 1% fee won't just cost you a few $100. It will literally drain millions of dollars of potential wealth from your family. Always, always scrutinize the fees. Which brings us to our final phase, Section 5, protecting long-term wealth. We're talking about generational preservation. Not just making money, but keeping it across generations. How exactly do you keep wealth alive when paper currencies eventually fail? And history shows us they often do. Well, there's this fascinating historical account of an Italian family that maintained their fortune for over 800 years. We're talking surviving the Black Death, huge market crashes, and 2 world wars. Their secret? They split their assets right down the middle into thirds, 33% in real estate and land, 33% in physical gold, and 33% in valuable art. They tied their wealth to tangible assets that human beings inherently value, regardless of what's happening to the banking system. To truly preserve wealth, you also have to stop falling for the illusion of visible wealth. When you see someone driving a brand new luxury car and holding the latest phone, you are only seeing what they spent. But a lot of the time, that lifestyle is heavily financed by EMIs and crippling credit card debt. True wealth, honestly, is invisible. It's the money you didn't spend. It's having a zero debt balance, heavily funded investment accounts, and the freedom to just walk away from a terrible job if you want to. But you also must define your endpoint. When is it enough? Consider the really tragic cautionary tale of Raja Gupta. He rose all the way from being an orphan to the CEO of a major consulting firm, and he amassed an estimated $100 million. But he lacked a definition for enough. Driven by this desire for even more, he got caught up in insider trading during the 2008 financial crisis. He lost his reputation, his career, and his freedom, simply because he let greed completely override reason. The philosopher Jim Rohn perfectly described it like this: true wealth is a well, not a water tank. Having a massive sum of cash in the bank is just a water tank. No matter how huge it is, if you keep drawing from it without refilling it, it's going to eventually run dry. But having the high-income skills to constantly generate value and cash flow, that is a well. It provides infinite security because you can always draw more water whenever you need it. Ultimately, we need to remember that money at its core is just a tool. Its highest purpose is not to buy shiny status symbols just to impress strangers. Its true highest purpose is to buy back your time, to secure your peace of mind, and to give you the ultimate freedom to design your own life exactly how you want it. Which leaves us with one final, crucial question to reflect on today. Take a hard look at your own financial roadmap, your spending habits, and your mindset.
Is the money you're making today actually buying you true freedom, or is it just buying you more invisible chains?